Sir, you can start, sir.
Okay. Uh, Welcome to the IGNO classes. Today we are going to discuss about the market analysis as far as the block 2 is concerned. In the last class, in the previous class, we have started our discussion on understanding tourism marketing. And dear friends, whenever we talk about the market analysis, it is one of the important features of the marketing system. And under this, today we are going to discuss about the marketing research. So, dear friends, before going to talk about the marketing research, we must keep in mind the two blending concept. One is the marketing in one hand, and in the other hand, we call it the research. Now, question comes again: why marketing research? What is the necessity of the research in marketing analysis? What is the responsibility of the research in the marketing segments? And particularly, when we may talk about the marketing system, we have discussed. Generally, in the previous class, we have discussed that is the two kinds of the marketing system. One is the tourism market, and another one is the marketing system which is relating to the commodities, the goods, which are generally used by the people in their day-to-day life. And in this regard, whenever we may focus on the marketing research, in this context, we have highlight certain sub-themes that we may talk about the objectives. That is the prime duty when to talk about the teacher to highlight often the objectives under which concept, keeping in view of what objectives the teacher is going to have the class on a particular topic. And in this context, dear friends, the marketing research is based on certain prime objectives. That is, the first one we may talk about it, that is called what is the marketing research. We must keep in mind regarding this, I'm talking about the marketing research. Research in marketing, we may discuss later on, but keeping in view of the objectives that we are talking about, research in marketing, known as the marketing research. Then we may discuss in details in the upcoming points. And now the second objective, why and the marketing research conducted, that is important. What is the necessity? That is, the market research is required. If we may talk about it, dear friends, I'm talking about why on marketing research conducted. We must keep in mind to make the marketing system more viable, to make the marketing system more active, to make the marketing system more pertinent, and very simple to talk, to make the marketing system more successful. In this context, there is research relating to the marketing system is quite essential. The third objective, whenever the scholar is going to have the class, that you must keep in mind, that is describe what is marketing survey. It is the fact when to talk about the marketing survey, it is the part of the marketing research. Unless and until to reach or the field, unless and until to make the empirical analysis, I think that perhaps I might have been. So, in this regard, dear friends, I am talking about the marketing survey. It is the part and parcel I want to talk about the marketing research is concerned because unless and until to reach are the field study, particularly any kind of marketing we are taken into the account for the research, whether it may be the tourism marketing, whether it may talk about the commodity marketing. So that is the most important thing is here. And marketing survey is also essential for marketing research. The fourth one we may talk about design and the direct marketing research activities. It is the fact that whenever in the last class you have already discussed what is that? That is to make the marketing system more pertinent, to make the marketing system more successful and live. Yes, we must keep in mind to generate the sense of the planning. And it is the relating to when to talk about design and direct marketing research activities, dear friends, it is linked to the planning. And if we are not making the design before going to make the research, that we may talk about the blueprints, such a means. Unless and until to make the blueprints, sometimes it creates troubles in understanding and create the proper research. When to talk about, we are going to discuss in the second slide when we talk about, but it is a fact. Research is not an ordinary task for the researchers. Research is the most hardcore job in not only in case of India, it is a global phenomenon. And in this context, when we're talking about the research, is quite essential because we may talk about research means research means search again and again. It is one thing, the fact which is already existed, and to reinterpret with the new ideologies, to interpret with the new approach, and to make it the critical analysis. We call the research. The other part of the research, when to talk about it, friends, this is to develop, to generate the new theories containing to the subject matter. So these are the four major objectives. Another objectives also we may add it, that is the sources of the information and the marketing activities. It is the fact that, dear friends, if you want to make our analysis, if you want to make our decisions, our study more scientific, then we must focus on the sources because sources is the first hand raw material. Sources is the first hand tools, the instrument for whom for the researchers, or may talk of the scientists, social scientists, or the historians, or the people who are involved, indulged in the marketing segmentations. And in this regard, we are talking about research means that is the scientific analysis of the existing fact and with the application of the field study, as you mean, the application of the primary data. Now, coming to the second point, that is called, dear friends, introduction. Regarding the marketing research, we should focus on some areas. Dear friends, marketing research generally relating to the collection of the information from the marketing system, from the market, from the field that we call, and it is the fact that a group of the personnel who are making the research, they are research on particular the marketing and marketing relating to the commodity as well as to the tourism. And in this regard, just I'm talking about or give I would like to put an example. Suppose in all over the world, we may take a place, a tourist destination, as the part of the tourism marketing. That is the Great Wall of China. So now question comes. The marketing research is relating to the tourist product. That is the Great Wall of China of the Chu dynasty. And the dynasty was founded by the Shi Huangdi. Okay, and we must keep in mind it was the longest wall, 2,220 kilometer miles, and it is the one of the seven wonders. I'm talking about the research. How far? The Great Wall could have been able to monitor, enhance the GDP of the local people as well as the GDP of the state like China. And to know it, the data is required. Therefore, the researcher is reaching at the we are talking about, dear friends, the grade one. And here, that is the prime task of the researcher, that to collect data of the tourists from the national, international, regional, and intra-regional. And he or she should make some questionnaires by putting some questions regarding the destination. And similarly, whenever we are talking about the marketing research, is relating to the collection of the information regarding the satisfactions, regarding the target market, or regarding, as you mean, dear friends, how far they are happy and how far they are unhappy. And in this regard, dear friends, how far they are satisfied or dissatisfied. So, keeping in view of the varieties of the ambience, varieties of the human thoughts, varieties of the human requirements, we must collect the information at the grassroots level, the friends, that we must keep in mind. The second bit, whenever we talk about, generally, whenever we talk about the information, sometimes the questions are unaffected. Regarding the information, or the information is generally related to the customers, that we must keep in mind. Second, we talk about the competition, the trade and the distribution system. And it is the fact difference. Generally, the researcher collects the data. Yes, am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible, sir.
Yes,
Continue.
sir, you're audible.
Okay, sure. So the fact is, friends, I'm talking about what? I'm talking about the information. Whenever we are talking about the marketing research is relating to the collection of the information, again, questions comes, what kind of informations? The friends, generally, the informations are related to the customers. When to talk about the customers, we must keep in mind customers' requirement, number one. Number two, customer satisfaction. Number two, customers' feedback. Number three, customer standard of living. Number four, sure, number of things are relating to the customers, and the informations are collected from the customer, because the customer is the major source to supply the data, to supply the information, to make the marketing research more fortunate, more strengthened, and the solid one. And the another part, when we talk about it, friends, that is called the competition. And it is the fact, when to talk about the marketing system itself, the system of competition. It is the system of competition, because that is the motto of the marketing system. Unless and until you compete, then if people cannot reach, or the marketing system, marketing research cannot reach at the target. So competition also the part of the marketing research. And whether that the healthy competition, it is one thing, or the competition is based on the enmity or the hostility. And when to talk of the competition, whether it is the competition in the means of the trade and commerce, or the competition in the means of the selling the goods, or in the when to talk of the competition. So competition makes the marketing research, competition makes the countries more viable, more dynamic, more active. As a result, people see it is the common tendency. So when to talk about the marketing system is, in case of India, I am talking about, there are 28 states in India, and every state there is a competition regarding selling of the touristy product, as well as selling of the handicrafts, as well as the selling of the local productions, and that is also the part of the tourist product. And the another one that we must keep in mind, dear friends, the trade and distribution system. So that we must keep in mind, dear friends. It is the second aspect. So when to talk about the marketing research is deals with relating to it. And another concept we may talk about, the tourist marketing system is, or as far as the tourist marketing system is concerned, it deals with the tourist influx. And in this regard, we must keep on to talk the marketing research on the tourist products, sale and purchase, import and export. In this context, we must select a tourist destination in all over the world. And we must collect the data from the tourist office at the concerned tourist destination. So from the office, we could able to get reference. That is the arrival of the tourists, the influx of the tourists. How much the foreign tourists, how much the international, we met out the national tourists, and the number of the regional and the intra-regional near about it. Though we may not get the exact data, but we are getting the approximately the deepest data or the data relating to the research. Number two, that we must keep in mind regarding the marketing research. That is the duration of the stay that we must keep in mind. It cannot be neglected, and it is the part and parcel of defense. I'm talking about the marketing system. That is how many periods, the duration I'm talking about, duration of stay by the tourists and their preference to various destinations and attractions. So in this regard, the researcher must keep in mind what a tourist wants and why the tourist wants to stay 5 days in a particular tourist place and why one day in the another tourist place. So that is, I'm talking about the duration of the stay. Then we may talk about the difference there. Okay, thank you. We are talking about the difference. Their preference to various destinations. Whenever we talk about the tourist destination, it is not fixed. Tourist destinations, according to the demand of the tourist, according to the demand of the time, according to the urgency of the time, it has been added, it has been developed. For example, I may give difference. I'm talking about regarding the tourism industry. Everybody knows, or we know, the concept of a tourism was not in the ancient times. It was passing through the ages, passing through the time, and ultimately it got a shape. We call it the tourism just after the formation of the World Tourism Organization. My question again comes, whenever we talk about the tourists influx, their preference, now the preference is not fixed. Now preference is the multitude, magnitude. How to say? Just 5 years back, I'm talking about their friends, just 5 years back, a new concept that has been emerged in the tourism sector that is called the rural tourism. And just in 2002 years back, I mean, just during the time of the corona, a new concept introduced in the tourism industry that is called agricultural tourism. And that I'm talking about, that is the prime task of the researcher who conducts the research on the marketing analysis. And his responsibility is to talk or to communicate to the tourists regarding their influx, regarding their duration, regarding their preference. So there are so many tourist destinations. But a particular tourist, what wants in this context of the world, if we are talking about the Russian tourists, the Russian tourists' prime destination is India, and more particularly in India, that is called Vrindavan, Mathura, Govardhan. Why? The question comes because the Russians, in context to the world, are the most pompous regarding the promotion, propagation, and the admiration of Krishna cult. And the another one is the attractions. Yes, everybody wants. Their friends, every tourist wants what? To explore, to reach, are the varieties of the attractions. For example, if we talk about in Odisha in India, that is called the Puri Jagannath Temple. So difference any tourists, whether it may be the regional or we talk about the intra-regional, whether it may be the national or the international, whatever it may be. In Puri, there are many attractions. All the tourists are not coming to the temple and to pay to darshan to the Lord Jagannath. When to talk to foreign tourists, their attraction is the beach, Puri Sea Beach. Their attraction is the Puri Mathas. And in the other hand, whenever we the Indians, our prime attraction is the Ratnabeti. Our second attraction is the sea beach. So now question comes, I am talking about, it is also the part of the market research, or we may talk about marketing research. Now, dear friends, we're talking about the definition of the marketing research. It is quite important. So, dear friends, regarding the definitions, unquote, according to Kotler, Kotler what has pointed out that regarding the understanding marketing, Kotler has given a very solid descriptions through his thoughts, through his writings. And similarly, in context to the marketing research, Kotler has given his own statement. What is that? That is systematic problem analysis, model building, and the fact finding for the purpose of the important decision making and the control in the marketing of goods and services. So, difference it is the definition of Kotler. Okay. Now coming to what does it mean? I'm talking about going to discuss just after another definitions. The second definition that is green and a tall, TULL. So difference we are talking about, but the green and tall they have highlighted that objective search, systematic and objective search for an analysis of the information relevant to the identification and the solution of my problem, of any problems in the field of awakening. So, dear friends, this is the second definition, and that definition is developed and generated by Green and the Tall. So, now question comes, dear friends. After the two definitions, the scholars they have concluded what is that both the definition is reflected on both the that we must keep in mind, dear friends, both the definitions like we talk about the Kotler as well as the green and the tall, it can be shared that systematic collection of data is quite important and it must be why we are talking about it, dear friends. It is quite essential because unless and until to have uh, the systematic collection of data, we people cannot get the proper research. We people cannot conduct the proper research. So therefore, the data collection needs to a systematic analysis. For example, if for a better understanding, I'm telling you how under which circumstances the data collection would be systematic. The data collection would be systematic when the collection of data starts from the grassroots level to the upper level, number one. And number two, when we are talking about the marketing system, it is a kind of the organization too. And here everybody should work in a queue and everybody should link to the chain system. So in this context, we see the marketing research requires the systematic collection of data And the next one we're talking about a difference that is called the objectivity. Yes, research is the reflection of objectivity or other subjectivity. If we talk of the research means to search again and again on the existing fact. We call the research. Another research means the person who creates a new brain you may talk about, new thought you may talk about, new marketing system you may talk about. Then that is called the objectivity, is quite essential. Next, we are talking about, dear friends, that is called the analysis of data. So data analysis is the another aspect of the marketing research. Because if a researcher couldn't analyze the data properly in adequate manner scientifically, there is the possibilities of the fallacy of the research. So marketing research is quite dynamic. It is based on the system of the dynamism. And very simple to talk to your friends. The data analysis is a skill as exactly we mean. As a researcher, I myself, when conducted the research, particularly dear friends, I have collected the number of data. And when the data is analyzed properly, then we may say that there is the possibilities of the development of the scientific research. We get it through the analysis of data. Next, we are talking about the purpose of the problem solving. Yes, every research, there are the problems. And whenever the friends we are talking about the problems is a continuous process. Purpose of the problem solving, it is a continuous process. But our job is how to solve it. We have to solve it by two means. One means through the vehicular means, like people can reach. And the second one I'm talking about, the purpose of the problem solving means in the marketing research, there are many problems occurred to accelerate the marketing system. And in this regard, we must see that problems of the purpose of the problem solving. Amara, every in the research, every field, there is the problems, there is the issues, and that is the responsibility of the historians or the scholars that to materialize that problems, that the issues. And in this context, we are talking about the decision making is the last but not the least in context to the definition of the marketing research is concerned. So this means particularly whenever we are talking about the concept of the marketing research, it deals with these major aspects what we discussed, that is called the definition of the marketing research. And in this context, the researcher must focus on, in this context, the researcher must focus on certain areas as a means. We call it the first one is the difference, the first one is the purpose. So different, whenever we talk about the purpose is important because it is clearly defined by the green and the bull. And here data gathered through the marketing research will by definition be related to the field marketing. And whenever we talk about the purpose, yes, the marketing research deals with or keeping in view of what? Number one, the product. Number two, the consumer's profile. Yes, it is the fact. What the product you are going to sell and targeting what the market. That is important. What the product you are selling, that you must keep in mind. And at the same time, you also keep in mind with whom you are going to sell it and who we are the consumers. Regard I'm talking about the product. Second, we talk about the consumer's profile. And it is a fact, if I'm giving an example different. Now it's my pleasure to have the class of the you people. And here, my responsibility is I am selling the product of the international tourism destinations. That is my motto. And I am selling to you people throughout of the globe. And the question comes, the product is relating to whether it is a tourism product or it is the day-to-day product. The second thing we will talk about the consumer's profile, with whom you are going to deliver the product and who is going to use the product. That is important thing. Because I'm talking about in the society, there are the different sections of the people. It is among the Hindus, it is among the Muslims. So whenever we may talk about, dear friends, the consumer profile is quite essential because what the product you are selling, whether it is required by the consumer or not. So therefore, the consumer's profile is quite essential because there is the possibilities of the mishaps and there are the possibilities of the mishaps. And in this context, we must keep in mind, dear friends, the consumer's profile is required, his qualification, his mode of communication, his skill, whether he is skilled or the semi-skilled or the non-skilled. So in this way, we are talking about the consumer's profile and what the consumer's academic background also taken into the account. So now, dear friends, we are talking about what is that? That is called the competition. Competition means the market share. So it is the fact when to talk about the product is going to be sold in the market, that is the first job of the entrepreneurs that what is the objective of the car and it is the fact that as you means no, the competition is healthy competition and the unhealthy competition that you must keep in mind. And whenever we talk the compete of the healthy competition, there is no sense of the negative interpretations. There is no concept of the derogative interpretations too. And in this context, dear friends, and just we notice that that is called the friends that is called the competitions. And now going to discuss the competition is relating to the tourism market, or we are talking about the commodities which are used by the individuals in his day-to-day life. And now coming to discuss the another point difference that is called the trade structure. It is quite important difference. We never neglect it. The trade structure relating to the distribution system and the facilities. It is the fact. Only the production is not quite enough. Not only just the production is not enough to the context to the India. And that we must keep in mind here, friends. We must keep in mind here the trade structure. What kind of the trade? Whether it is the oceanic trade or the land trade, whether it is the air trade or it is the agricultural trade or whether it is the trade of the blessings, love and care. It is part of the, I'm talking about your friends. So the trade structure is important, then market characteristics. And when we may talk about the market characteristics, it deals with the size of the market, growth of the market, spread of the market, demand of the market. That we must keep in mind. Unless and until to have it, it is quite difficult to give the proper marketing in research. Now coming to the next one. Now coming to the next one. So dear friends, when we are talking about the items, thank you. Whenever we are talking about the items, yes, in this context, dear friends, the marketing research also reflects on some items. What the items? Because these items are the means through which the data is collected, through which the information being restored. And in this context, dear friends, I am talking about you that is called items of the marketing research. The first one is the market. Come to the point, dear friends. Market deals with what? Market deals with its size, whether it is a big size market or it is a small size market. Second one, we talk about the spread. You see that where there is the proper research, where there is the proper facilities, the friends, for your information, where there is the proper facilities, there is the generation of the proper market. And where there is no proper facilities, there is the lesser activeness of the market. We keep in mind. And particularly in context to the market, it is in terms of the size, spread, growth, in terms of volumes and revenue shares of composition segment wise. That I told. Suppose a place, if I may talk about any tourist destinations, it may be in Odisha, it may be in India, or we may talk about in the world. We see everywhere there is the marketing system, everywhere. And everywhere also, there is the market. And generally, the market is not only made for the human beings, the market also bring for the human resources as well as the cohorts achievements difference. So that market needs the size, number one. Number two difference, we are talking about the spread of the market, how much area the market has been covered. The number third, that is called growth in terms of volume and revenue share of respondent. I'm talking about the difference. So it is comes under the market. Okay, that we are talking about the another aspects. We call it the consumer. Our discussion is that is called items on the marketing research. The second bit deals with the consumer. The consumer is the core part of the marketing research because minus consumer, minus the responsibility of the consumer, the marketing system is came to an end. That we must keep in mind because consumer is the man who accelerates. Consumer is the person who accelerates the system of the marketing system in Odisha. And in this regard, dear friends, I am talking about that is called the consumer's profile must be taken into the account. Then we are talking about the habits. So keeping in view of the habits of the consumer, generally the sellers are selling the goods. For your information, I am just giving the example. Particularly a village called Bandhahuda, a village called of Cuttack district of Badamba and Tigiria. So if people can believe, whenever we talk about the customers, very simple to say, or the consumers, his profile is required, his habits required, his needs required, and the expectation is required. Yes, as a tourist guide, that is my part to mitigate your stomach's body, mind, and soul by giving you the right piece of the knowledge. Similarly, it is a Sekitakuchi that I must keep in mind, your friends. That is called in the when to talk the consumer's profile is required, habit is required, need is required. And we may talk about the perception, the preferences. So all these goods, all these things are coming under the items relating to the marketing saturation or the marketing system. Exactly we mean. And now, whenever we are talking about the difference, that is called the products. It is another cardinal aspects of the marketing research. Why we may talk about the difference? We may talk about it because products to know differential among competing persons. So the concept of tailor is not equal to all. And in this context, we see his study, and it is the fact difference that is called the profile, habits, needs, preferences. Then we are talking about the expectations, preferences. Okay. Come on, another one we are talking about that is called the products. I mean, देखिले in the marketing research, Everything is interlinked. Market linked to the consumer, consumer linked to the product. Now coming to what kind of the products? For your information, dear friends, to know differential among competing problems in a same position. I am talking about what? I am talking about the production. Suppose two kinds of the students of mine, they cross the beat one on the, we may talk about on the door, and another friend put just a two coin mark. Yeah. So in this regard, dear friends, okay. Right now taking the classes of the. So now question comes, dear friends. I'm talking about the items of the marketing research that you must keep in mind. What is that? That is the product. And regarding the product, we see to know differential among the competing products in same position, price, sensitivity, then packaging, then servicing, acceptability. These are the features regarding the production. Just we are talking about. At a tourist destination like the Konark, suppose of Odisha in India, I am giving that example, dear friends. And very simple to say, at Konark, there are so many good sealers are there, hoteliers are there, the owners of the restaurants are there, and the little bit, you may talk with the small scale industries are there, even in form of the selling of the coconut, green coconut. And just people see whenever the same product of the coconut is the same for all the tourists. But whenever we talk about the product, it is the same place, same production, but it is differentiated. How to say? It's a position. Whether the product of the green coconut that has been purchased recently, that has been collected from the owner recently, the farm dwellers, or 2 3 days back, before that we must keep in mind. Number two, the pricing. If there are the four persons are selling the same coconut, green coconut at the same destination, we must keep in mind, dear friends, the four persons are just selling the four persons. And the most important thing is here, one who sells the coconut at the cost of 22 rupees. Another is selling the same coconut, green coconut, at the cost of 30 rupees. Another one selling at the same product at the cost of the 40. And the fourth one selling at the cost of 50. So now just if people see that there is the variations, and ultimately we may say that the product who sells the green coconut at the cost of the 22 rupees, there is the more possibilities of the quick selling of the coconut. And here the person sells more coconuts, keeping the less price. On the other hand, the people are selling the less coconuts and demanding the more price. And ultimately, what happened? The person who was selling the green coconut at the cost of the 22, he was the more gainer because that is the strategy of the marketing that more selling, less profit. And less selling, more profit sometimes hampered affect to the marketing system. And in this regard, difference also it requires what? The sensitivity. Sensitivity exactly we mean what? J, under which circumstances the product like the green coconut is more selling. Yes, dear friends, during the summer seasons, particularly, we are selling the more coconuts. Then we may talk about the packaging. That is also another strategy of the marketing research because the people, the selling of the product must keep in mind what is that difference. That is the packaging attraction, how to attract to the customers, towards the product. Therefore, it requires the packaging system and under which circumstances the product is sold, whether it is open, whether it is hidden, whether it is properly packed or packaging is made or not. So sometimes the packaging is two types. One is the durability packaging and another one is the short-term packaging. Then we are talking about the servicing. Dear friends, we have discussed in the context of the marketing system that you must keep in mind. In context to the marketing system, service is quite essential. Some scholars have been pointed out that service is the backbone. Yes, it is a fact. If we are getting the proper service from the seller, then there is the more attractions of the tourists. And we are talking the acceptability. That is another factor. How the product is accepted. If the product is more costly, it may not accepted by all the sections of the society. So these are the concepts. So when to talk about items of the marketing research is a concept. Marketing research is based on the market segmentation. It also based on the consumers' behavior, consumers' habits, consumers' expectations. And another one, the fourth point, the fourth item, that is called the promotion. And dear friends, when we talk of the promotion concept comes under development. And it is a fact. The country could able to, if we talk about in the world perspectives, the friends, we notice that in all over the world, each and every state, it may be the large or the small, it may be the progress or we may talk about the semi-progress, it may be the developed or we may talk of the developing or the underdeveloped, whatever it may be. So every country now trying to promote the tourist products as the part of the marketing research is concerned. And in the promotion, which areas are generally keeping in mind and which areas can be taken care of? The first point regarding the promotion sales. So through sales, we people can promote a thing. It may be the tourist product. And like we may talk about the Great Wall, we may talk about the Taj Mahal, we may talk about. Or we may talk about the mausoleums. We may talk about the in the world context, like we may talk the Statue of the Liberty. So question comes to your friends, we are talking about how we could able to sell it. That is the most important. And how to sell it. The product selling is known as the promotion or the promoting the goods. It may be the tourist goods, the tourist products, or the goods that we may talk about it, your friends, our day-to-day life, what the things we are consumed. And therefore it needs the sales. Promotion comes, promotion is more effective through the sales. Whether the good is sold in the urban sector and or in the urban sector, what kind of the behaviors should be taken care of by the sellers or we may talk with executives. And similarly, we may talk with your friends, the effectiveness of the communication. It is most important. In English, there is a saying, if one could able to communicate properly, one could able to reach at the customers by his behavior. Communication that doesn't mean any language. Communication also taken into the account of defense that is called the gestures and the postures. So that we must keep in mind, dear friends. And it also speaks about the I'm talking about the effectiveness of the communications. It is based on the language on which the customer, the consumer, would be able to communicate. Very simple to talk to your friends. Suppose we are communicating to the people who are resided at the rural areas, and there is the presence of the mind of the sailors that to whom he is communicating. And he noticed that I am communicating to rural people, particularly who are out of the education, illiterate. At the meantime, one must keep in mind that to use that kind of the words of the parochial terms, or we call it the local languages. It may be the regional languages. And in the same time, when we are communicating to the urban people or the people of the abroad, the overseas, yes, we must keep in the mind that is called the English. And most probably, that is the responsibility, dear friends, of the sellers. When he sells the product, it requires the effectiveness of the communication. Communication, it may be any language, it may be the regional language or the international language, whatever language it may be, but here the sailors must have the command over his communications and a reach of a media reaction to promotion strategies. And it is a fact when to talk about the production needs to promote, how to promote. In this regard, both the electronic media as well as the printed media plays a very vital role. And therefore, people might have gone through in all over the world, every country. So media is now the one of the major platform through which a product can be promoted. And it is a fact, dear friends, when we're talking about the notions of promotion. Yes, we must keep in mind that is the strategy of the media that we must keep in mind. And the second one is the effectiveness of the sales force. Sales force here means the sales personnel, the sales human resource achievements. And in this regard, we may talk about these are the varieties, the items of the marketing research, and the last but not the least, that is called the performance. So differentiate the fact the performance is made on the basis of the monitoring and the evaluation. So when to talk about the evaluation, that is the responsibility. If the same product used by the different kinds of the people, and at the meantime, one must get the more profit than the others. So at the meantime, the other person who fails to sell the more product, who fails to promote the production. At the meantime, his job is his responsibility is to his responsibility is to evaluate. And evaluation process is the important process, important areas, the items of the marketing research. Unless and until to evaluate, one cannot reach, one cannot develop a very acute research that you must keep in mind, dear friends. Now, coming to, dear friends, the another aspects we call it the categorization of the marketing research. Generally, the marketing research is classified, that you must keep in mind, dear friends. It is classified under the threes. The one is the exploratory. Exploratory means to explore the secret of the market in each and every state, in each and every country of the world. When everywhere or where the market research is taken care of by the researchers, he generally classified the research into three. One is the exploratory. And what do you mean by the exploratory research? Different. It focuses particularly on the discovery of the ideas. Simple example I am giving, dear friends. Suppose the four persons are selling uh, alcohol. We are talking about. I'm talking about as the global phenomenon. The four personalities are selling the alcohol. At the meantime, one is getting more profit and keeping in mind of the less loss. The other one having the more loss, getting the less profit. It is because what? It is because the person is failed to explore the weather, to explore the strategy of the market. Therefore, exploratory research focuses on the discovery of the ideas and is generally based on the secondary data. Exploratory method is based on the secondary data and it is a preliminary study that you must keep in mind, dear friends. Then after analysis on the secondary data, then That is the role, that is the responsibility of the marketing researcher. That that we may talk about. It is the I am talking about the preliminary study. The secondary data is the preliminary study, and the researcher may have to change the focus as a result of the new ideas, relationships among the variables. So that is important, exploratory. Every researcher must be an explorer. Unless and until to be an explorer, a researcher, particularly who is conducting the marketing research, cannot give the right drops, cannot give the right justice. Now, coming to the friends, the second category, as far as the marketing research is concerned, that we must keep in mind, that is called the descriptive method. What generally the descriptive method is reflected in the social sciences. In the social sciences, the methods, in the research, the method that which is used, that is called the descriptive or analytical methods. But whenever we talk about the two marketing research, it is descriptive. How to say? When the researcher wants to know the characteristics of the certain groups, such as the age, educational level, income, and occupation, that I'm talking about. Regarding the success of the marketing system, the marketing research is taken care of. And the marketing research is based on what I'm talking about here, the researcher, that we must keep in mind. Here, the researcher conducts the data, conducts the empirical analysis through the questionnaires. That to know the characteristics that you must keep in mind, dear friends. That is the age group. Which age group is targeted when to talk of the marketing system is concerned? That we are talking about. Oh, sorry, dear friends. And I actually, I'm talking about you. Yeah, here. The age group is essential. And number two, I'm talking to that is called the educational level. It is also important. That is come under the descriptive one, because unless and until the proper education, unless and until the adequate education, a customer cannot give justice to the application, to the acceptability of the product. It may be the tourist product, and it is the fact when to talk about in case of India, or India as a tourist destination. For your information, dear friends, a state that is called the West Bengal. Its capital is Kolkata. And in all over India, particularly the Bengalis, are more cautious, more conscious, and educated in context to buying the tourist product. So that I'm talking about it is relating to the education, educational level. So they understood in life, relaxation, peace, happiness is quite important, and only the tourist product can reduce it. What in the management we are talking about, the stress management, hypo and the hyper. And another is the income. That is, I'm talking about the descriptive. The marketing research also requires. If we are talking about the international product, simple example I am giving for your better understanding, dear friends. In all over the world, we people are familiar, we people are using the Amway product. I am sure in all in the different part of the world, Amway product. But it is the fact that just before launching the Amway product, it may be the toothpaste, it may be the deos, it may be the powders, it may be the any items, the Nutrilite powder we may talk about. So question is here, the Amway company not success in each and every state. It is not successful. Why it is not successful in each and every state? Because in all over the world, each and every state is not economically empowered. That we must keep in mind. So before going to launch the product, the producer, the product manager, or the marketing system must think of the economic conditions of the local people where they are going to sell the product. So income is quite important, quite important. According to the income, or the income also mobilizes the marketing research. That we must keep in mind, dear friends. And also occupation. If it is fact, whenever we talk about the Ame product, just I am giving the example of people of Odisha, of India, regarding the application of the Ame products. I must say that in case of Odisha, the Ame product is not reaching at each and everybody, or is not reaching yet at the doorstep. Why? The cost of the toothpaste is 300 rupees. And in the other hand, the people of Odisha, they are getting the toothpaste at the cost of 10 rupees, 5 rupees, 20 rupees, 30 rupees, 50 rupees, 100 rupees. Then why the people should go for that toothpaste for the 300 rupees? So in this regard here, education is required, but it is the fact that the persons who is using, and there is the instructions of the toothpaste, though it is the highest, the huge amount of the investment for a single production, but its longevity is more than the production having the less price. If we may talk about the close-up, if we may talk about the Colgate, I am talking about just making the comparison how far the descriptive types of the research is made. If just compared, what is the amount of the paste we are taking for the brush of the close-up, or the we may talk about the Bajradanti, or we may talk about the Colgate or the Sensodyne, whatever it may be. In the other hand, just you are having just I'm talking about the stick, matchstick, that portion, that amount of the toothpaste is equal to the toothpaste of the 10 times of the Amway product. So in this regard, we must keep in mind, dear friends, income, occupation, because the occupation leads to the income of the persons. In may talk about Odisha, there are 33% of the service holders. And out of the 33% of the service holders, we are talking about the 10%, they are in the high rank, then categorized, we may talk about. The maximum people, in case of Odisha, in case of India, I am thinking that in the different part of the world, that is called the land revenue. And in Odisha, as you means the people having the agriculture as the occupation. And keeping in view all these, the researcher put the broadly categorization of the threes. We call it the exploratory, we call it the descriptive, as well as the third one is the causal. So what is the causal research? Difference, the causal research is the random research generally we mean it. And very simple to talk, the causal research seeks to find cause and effect, that we must keep in mind. The causal research is purely based on the cause and effect. If there is the bitter cause, there is the bitter effect. If there is the bitter effect, there is the bitter cause. So very simple to talk about, it is based on the more variables, and we call it the casual research, or the casual category of the marketing research is based on the cause and effect ratios. So now coming to dear friends, the another one, that is called, we may talk about the in this context, I have forgotten to say that one is the scope for the research, that we may add it in context too after the category of the marketing research. So when to talk the scope of the marketing research is very vast, particularly in the field of tourism, that we must keep in mind, dear friends. The scope of marketing research is very vast, is widespread, is widened in the tourism, and it covers every constituent or element of the tourism industry. Particularly in the tourism industry, the marketing research is multitudes, it's magnitudes. Because, why am I talk about it, dear friends? Because it deals with the government, role of the government. It deals with the travel agencies. And for your information, dear friends, when we are talking about the travel agencies, we must keep in mind again the airlines relating to the hotels, the tour operators, the tourist transport, or we are talking about the tourist transport operators, the tourist guides, the tourist escorts. So there are the so many areas on which the marketing research can be conducted. So therefore, tourism provides a solid platform to the researchers who are engaged themselves in the marketing research. Now coming to the another aspects, dear friends, here each and every area so what I told, that is called the government or the travel agencies, the airlines, the hotels, the tour operators, the tourist transport operators, the guides, the escorts, and here it is also a profitable organizations. If the government properly manage the tourist destination, the tourist attraction, it is the most profitable productions in the age of the tourism management. And very simple to say, dear friends, when to talk about the scope of research in the tourism industry, each and every consumer we may keep in mind different. The researcher deals with the study of the consumer's behavior, the consumer's demand and attitude. That we must keep in mind. In tourism sector, what a tourist wants, what the tourist behavior, and what is the tourist attitude. It is the fact difference. If once a tourist is satisfied to a particular tourist destination and there is the possibilities of the frequency of the occurrence of the tourist, or we are talking about the occurrence of the tourist influx. So now, dear friends, we are talking about it. Yes, uh, the researchers in the tourism industry must understand the competition, the characteristics of the market, the promotions, then campaigns, impacts. I'm talking about it, dear friends. That is called the scope for the research in the tourism sectors. So there is a researcher can get the huge applause of the research, or a researcher gets the great avenues, dear friends, whenever we talk about the tourism industry is concerned. So now coming to the another aspects, dear friends, that is called the source of the information. It is the fact to make the proper research. It may be in the marketing system, it may be in the marketing structures, or it may be in the tourism marketing structures, or it may be the research in the social sciences, the research in the managerial models, the research in the science field, or the research in the commerce. Everywhere, source is important because source is just like the oxygen. I'm talking the source of information to study the marketing agencies, to study the marketing system. And whenever we talk about the source, that we must keep in mind, dear friend, generally, collection of primary data is quite felt through the field study. So field study is the one of the important source material for the research in the marketing system. And it is possible, dear friends. Suppose A is working the research on the tourist influx and also working on the socio-economic behavior, socio-economic management. In this context, the researcher cannot produce the better research work by sitting in the AC rooms, by sitting in the airs or within the four walls. No, that is the base. Whenever we talk about it, friends, the field is the storehouse of the information. So therefore, A as a researcher must reach to any tourist destination and to collect the data regarding the influx of the tourists, regarding the deflux of the tourists. Tourists that we must keep in mind difference why the tourists are coming in a large scale. to a particular destinations. In other hand, why the tourists are not coming to the another destination, though the destination possesses the high degree of the morality, high degree of the ethics, or the high degree of the economic possibilities. The reason is that is I'm talking about collection of the primary data through the field study and from the field particularly, from the destination, from the production as a whole. And number two, that you must keep in mind, dear friends. Number two is, yes, we are talking about number two, the persons will collect the data through individually or in groups. And it is the fact when to talk about the individual, yes, every destination, every product, suppose is required. I'm talking about how to collect the data personally or individually, and how to data collect in groups. For example, if we are talking about the selling of the tourist product, tourist destination, and here we may ask to the tourist of a particular state. It may be the national, international, regional, and intra-regional. So individually we may collect the data, and also we may collect the data through the groups. For example, every tourist destination there is the group of the sellers, and the researcher's job is to collect the data in group and analyze and analysis achievements difference. After the collecting information in a group, that is the jurisdictions of the researcher that to explain in details with a scientific outlook. And in this regard, dear friends, how it can be possible when to talk of the source of the information, how a researcher should collect the data, should collect the information. So I'm talking about the collection of the primary data is possible through the field study that we must keep in mind, dear friends. And when I'm talking with the field study, the persons will have to contact it either individually, I told, or in groups, and they may just observe or talk to or seeking response. So the data can be collected through the major four areas from the questions. We call it the questionnaire methods. So first of all, the researcher must develop a set of questionnaires on the product, uh, keeping in view of its the varieties aspects. Similarly, suppose the researcher is conducted, I'm talking about the data through the questions on a tourist destination. And in this regard, we must keep in mind that is called the questionnaire method. The question contains some questions. It may relating their satisfaction, it may relating their dissatisfaction, relating their education, relating their understanding, relating their qualifications, relating their feedbacks. So the number of things are taken care of it. And ultimately, that we must keep in mind, dear friends, what is that? The second type of the source materials, we call it, or the source of information, we call it the hypothetical situations, then the pictures, images. So these are the certain measures, these are certain parameters. When we talk about, dear friends, the number of persons to be contracted for the collection of data, and that data for the marketing research. And in this regard, when we talk about one, for example, all the 1.6 million tourists coming to India from abroad have to be contacted if complete data is to be about tourist performances and experiences, but it is impossible to have it because the practical method is to contact a much smaller number, so chosen as to be representative. The representative, suppose a group of this tourists from the Cambodia or the tourists from the Nigeria, the South African countries, they're visiting to India. Suppose 1.6 million tourists visited in a year, but it is difficult to the part of the researcher that to collect the data, the information from all. Rather, here he must collect the data from the representatives of their groups, and the smaller number is chosen for research purposes because on the basis of the sampling techniques. uh, so always the researcher, I'm talking about the micro rather the macro. We're talking about the micro analysis because in 21st century research is emphasized on the micro rather the macro. And now coming to discuss the another aspects, dear friends. Whenever we are talking about the sampling is concerned, the sample is the representative of the population or the universe. And it is a fact when to talk about the sampling is concerned, it is both relating to the tourist product, the tourist destination, as far as the tourism marketing is concerned. And in the other hand, that you must keep in mind, dear friends, what is that? That is the production for the day-to-day utility of the mankind or the individual's achievements. And in this regard, we are talking about in the tourism marketing, the information is collecting through samplings. And there are certain samplings we may going to discuss, dear friends. The first one is the random sampling. The second one is the systematic sampling. The third one is the stratified samplings. And the fourth one we must keep in mind that is called area samplings. Now the questions are happening. Questions are innovated in the mind. What is what is the random sampling? So difference the random sampling exactly mean where the samples are taken from the population by methods that ensure that there is no bias. We call it the random samplings. And in the random selection, every member of the population has an equal chance of being in the sample. And for your information, the choice is the free from the human judgment. For example, I'm talking to regarding the random sampling in context to the tourism marketing information. For example, the winning tickets in the lottery are picked on simple random basis. We have already noticed that whenever in all over the world there is, like, this is the part of the human tendency, this is the part of the human society that a group of the people, a group of the communities in the society generally who are involved on it, that to what to say, spend money or to play with the lottery. If I talk about in India, there is the Kaun Banega Karodpati. It is the what exactly I'm talking about? What difference? It is in India, a kind of the lottery too. We may talk about it. And for example, I'm talking to winning tickets in a lottery are picked on the simple random basis. There are the so many lottery tickets are there, and we may mix the lottery tickets and ultimately to pick off one. This is called the simple random basis. And the tables of the random numbers generated by the statistical methods are available by and may talk about may be used to choose samples from a population which is listed in a numerical order. So I'm talking about the random sampling is one of the important sampling, and here we must keep in mind how the collection of data is based on the random and on the basis of the ticket we picked off from the random sampling or the random basis, we came to know that, dear friends, that is, there is the winner. And here we may not say that one is not predicted himself or one is not determined that he is going to have chosen through the random samplings. And it is a random sampling, I told that, where the everybody, every individual getting the chance that to be the sample or to be the parameter, to be the source of the information. Now we are talking about the systematic samplings, dear friends. Whenever the systematic samplings, we must keep in mind, generally it introduce in order to choice of a sample, I am talking about an initial locks of the bias. I'm talking the systematic sampling. Generally, the lapse, as exactly we may talk about, the lack of the bias is there because it is chronological, methodical, scientific. I am talking with this what to say, the systematic sampling. If the sample to be chosen is 1/10 of the population, every 10th person in the list of the population can be included in the sample. It is methodical. And in this regard, we may talk about every 10th can be decided often as the 1, then 11th, then 21st, then 31st. And this is the proportions exactly. When the 41st, then the 51, the 61, like this. Now coming to, dear friends, the stratified sampling is the another sampling that we must keep in mind, dear friends. And here one must keep in mind the stratified sampling. It is a process very simple to talk. And here the different segments of the population are taken into the account. And whenever we talk about the different segments of the population, it may be their education, it may be their living style, it may be their income, it may be their occupation, it may be including their behavior, their attitudes, or we may talk about the sense of the understanding. And for example, if you take a sample from all the tourists coming into India in the month, and that month has a very heavy inflow on one kind of a tourists. The sample may not be representative enough. Why I'm talking about? Because there the proper sampling cannot be made, cannot be possible, because it is the huge order of huge influx of the tourists. That we must keep in mind, dear friends. And in this regard, we call it the stratified the samplings. And we may take samples from the every age group, interest group, or country of the origin. Then we call it, or we can develop the proper data, or we can incorporate it in the tourism marketing industry, tourism marketing research, as well as the research in the marketing in general. Now we are talking about the difference that is called the area sampling. It is also another part of the samplings that you must keep in mind, dear friends. Why? Now it is a stratified, a kind of the stratified sampling where the population is separated on a geographical dimension. For example, if we may talk about in case of Odisha and case of India, or if we may talk about the global phenomena like we may talk about the Switzerland, we may talk about the US, we may talk about the Italy, Germany. So it is a kind of the stratified samplings. Why? Now here the population is separated on the geographical dimensions. Some geographical dimensions contributed a lot. As a result, there is the highest influx of the tourists. And if there is the highest influx of the tourists, there is the possibilities of the foreign earnings. That we must keep in mind, friends. And we must keep in mind, friends, the samples could be taken separately from those visiting the places in the south, or we may talk about the northern Indias. And it is the fact there are some tourists they are visiting to both the patches, both the pockets, to the south and the north. Both all the tourists are having a common motives, and some tourists, whenever we talk about the microanalysis, a group of the tourists they prefer to move to the South India, and another group of the tourists they prefer to move to the North India. Because here the tourists, the persons, they are geographically diversified. It is because of what? The geography also, area sampling is also quite important, and it also incorporated in the marketing research. So now, dear friends, we are going to discuss about the very simple say market research and relating to the tourist product. That we must keep in mind, dear friends. That is called, I'm talking about The marketing research, and most we may keep in mind, that is called the planning. Planning is quite important. Why I'm talking about a tourist product in the tourism marketing system. A tourist product is taken into the account of the research, which is related to the planning, and it is the fact. Unless and until to use the plan, unless and until to adopt the planning, the product cannot be properly executed, properly promoted. Therefore, there are certain parameters like I'm talking about tourist product is relating to the research. And in this context, our discussion is made the design a market research. So how to a research or the market research is designed, is planned, is equipped. In this context, there are certain parameters I'm talking about. The design of a research study depends on the purpose for which it is being done. That is important. And the design of the research is purely depends on the purpose. Why the research, marketing research is made. And therefore, the purpose will decide what data has to be collected. It is the fact unless and until to have the data and unless and until to interpret the data in a methodical way, in a systematic way, in a chronological way, and by putting the different thoughts, different approaches, it would not be a proper research when to talk about the social science or when talk about the research in the tourism sectors. And in this regard, we must say that certain areas, like I'm talking about the planning, launch, then the potential users, the experience, and the business analysis. And it is the fact that difference when we're talking about the planning, we must say that planning needs to identify the potential. Potential exactly mean the potential of the consumers, the potential of the tourist product or the product as a whole, and its location, pricing, then promotions. It is a fact. So just before selling a tourist destination, a tourist product, that is the responsibility of the stakeholders as well as the government, the administrations, that to make the plan or to identify the potential, to identify the tourist destination, the tourist product, and its location. How far the location, the geography is responsible to promote, to help the large scale of the tourist influx. And therefore, I'm talking about the potential first one. It comes under the planning. The second one, we're talking about the location. Therefore, we people, it is a human tendency. The tendency of the tourist as well as the common individuals that he or she prefers the product or the tourist destination that should be well located, keeping in view of all weather roads. And it is a fact if the location is the faulty, the location is not well to do not well equipped, then there is the lesser possibilities of the tourist influx, and there is the lesser possibilities to work, to carry out, and to burn out the economic activities. The second one, the pricing. Yes, it must keep in mind. Suppose a tourist, a person wants to spend the money at a tourist destination or to purchase a tourist product. At the meantime, the price should be keeping in view the price. Suppose you may talk about Odisha. There are the in case of India, there are the so many tourist destinations monitored by the Archaeological Survey of India. And that important thing we must keep in mind, dear friends. What is that? That is keeping in view of the price, what is the conditions of the people and how much they can afford. So price is another aspect. Suppose I'm giving the example to friends. Suppose Konark is a tourist destination. It comes under the World Heritage Sites determined by the UNESCO as the part of the UNO. And Konark is located where? It is located in Odisha, and particularly on the bank of the Bay of Bengal. We are talking about the Chandrabhaga. And as Konark notice or the identified in Odisha, located in Odisha, suppose the entry fee to Konark temple would increase by the government or the demand of the stakeholders that 500. At the meantime, how percentage of the people, the population of Odisha could able to afford that 500 to pay. So therefore, keeping in view of that, the price also determines. Next, I'm talking about the promotions, dear friends. And in this regard, I'm talking about, dear friends, whenever we are talking about the planning is over, I'm coming to the launch. Launch exactly mean whether the planned products will attract expected levels of the tourist. Suppose there is a planning how to sell, because it is happened in case of case of the world. Just selling the tourist product, there are so many plannings. The plannings also in form of the fairs and festivals, exhibitions. And here it is noticed that, or the plant should be taken care of, the product, how much, whether the planned product attract expected level of the tourist, what the tourist expects, whether they are getting it or not getting it. That must keep in mind. The another aspects I'm talking about potential users. So difference when we talk about the potential users, we see where are they coming from. If I'm talking about the education people, educated people of the cities, how far they could give justice to a product, how far they could give the respect to a product, the same we may not expect it from the rural areas. We may not expect it from the semi-urban areas. So therefore, potential user is quite important. If we may talk about the product, I'm talking about the army product like the toothpaste I'm talking to. So here we must keep in mind, the so you may talk about the consumers, the customers who are using the AMI product of the toothpaste. They belong to which category? That we must keep in mind. And from where they are from, whether they belong from the areas that we must keep in mind, the persons, the people, the group, having the economical sound, that we must keep in mind, or they're coming from the grassroots level, that must be taken into the account. So potential user is quite important. And another one is the experiences. And difference why product is suffer as achievements. Suppose they are a product and that product is not attracted, that product is not sold by the customers or the consumers. And in this context, we may say that why that we must, that is comes under the research, why the product is suffering. I'm talking about a different case of Odisha. For a better understanding of India, in India there is a state called Odisha. Or you may talk about the Great Wall, or you may talk about the Statue of the Unity. In case of in India, it is in the Gujarat. We must keep in mind why the large number of the people, the tourists, the consumers, the customers are not coming to it. Whenever there is the lesser influx, we may call it the product is suffering a lot. And it is because of well in demand compared to the original expectation or compare other products. So in this regard, we are talking about the promotion. I'm talking the experiences report. Then the business analysis is another part of the friends. We must keep in mind to identify the types of the business and the range shows existing business. And it is a fact. I'm just giving for your better understanding. If you may talk about in the capital city of Odisha, that is called the Bhubaneswar, there is the Toshali craft. It is in the month of the December. For your better understanding, I am giving the example regarding the business analysis. And in the same place, Odisha of India, there is in Kotak there the Bali Jatra. So just we make the compare to the Bali Jatra in one hand, in other hand we are talking about the Toshali craft. And for your information, in the Toshali craft is more sophisticated and it deals with the range source of the income, the range source. And the common people, the people who belong to the a lesser economic standard, they are not coming to the Toshali because the craft in the Toshali is costly. And whenever we talk about the Bali Chatra, yes, it is open to the commons, starting from the commons to the upper stratas. So, keeping in view of this, I'm talking about the designing market research is quite essential. Now, we are going to discuss, dear friends, the another aspects that is called the market survey. For your information, we are talking about the market survey. And in this market survey, we must discuss the market survey is another the common technique of the market research because why survey is required. Survey is required just before the opening of the market, and survey also required after the opening of the market. And it is the fact that when why the survey is required by the researchers, the survey is required because if they are selling the product, how far, if they are running the market, how far the benefits and how far the company will get the benefits, how far the producer house will get the benefits, therefore the market survey is required. Similarly, if we may talk about any innovative steps being taken by the government or the any state, there is the survey. Simple example I am giving to you, dear friends. It is also relating to the market structures. The government of Odisha of India is going to introduce the metros in the capital city like the Bhubaneswar. So therefore, the government of Odisha first appointed a surveyors. His motto was to survey the track of the metros, particularly the starting to the end point. Number one, from where the metro will start and will end where. And regarding this, the survey was made regarding the soil structures and that I'm talking to it. And similarly, the market survey is without market survey, if there is the business, there is the possibilities of the failures. So therefore, market survey is required. And in the meantime, the market survey requires certain things, demands of the market, concentration of the population, location of the market, communication of the market. These are the certain parameters that we must keep in mind, dear friends. And we are talking about the market survey is important and it is the common technique to the market research. Next, we are going to discuss about the aims of the market survey. I'm talking about, dear friends, I forget one thing to say, that is the market survey is before and after the running of the market, the two kinds of the surveys are recorded or conducted as remains. And whenever we talk about, aims of the market survey, number one, it directly contact the persons concerned with the or we may talk about the persons as the beneficiary to the marketing system. Second, to collect the information from the people. And it is a fact. So here the researcher must reach at the local level, generally, where the production is going to be sold. And that is the responsibility, the prime task of the researcher that to collect the data, the information from the people. Therefore, he conducts the personal interviews. Each and suppose area, particularly, we never say that. It covers a large amount of the people. It covers a group of people as per the requirement of the research by the personal interviews, by putting certain questions regarding the benefit of the market, regarding the success of the market, regarding the failure of the market, regarding the beneficiary of the marketing system. Then we are talking about the huge mails that we must keep in mind, dear friends. Market survey is required whether the place having or the location having the mails. I'm talking about the survey can be made by the three methods. One is through the mail. Mail exactly means what? It purely deals with the elitist masses to collect the mail from them and send the questionnaires and collect the data from the mail, from the users, from the customers, from the tourists, We call it the use of mail, then use of the telephone also. The market survey can be conducted by the personal interviews, by the mail, as well as by the telephones. And in this regard, the difference, I'm talking about what? I'm talking about the market surveys. And now, difference, we are going to discuss about the interpretations. We are going to discuss about the interpretations. Yes, I told the personal interviews. Uh, I told I told the use of the mail. I told the telephones. Now going to discuss about the interpretations. So question comes, that is the second aspects, the second part of the marketing research. So we have discussed the varieties, arenas, how to collect the information, and in the same way, we are going to, after the collection of the information, after the collection of data, the friends, we must keep in mind, after the collection of data, that is the responsibility of the researcher, that to interpret the data, and sometimes it is happened different. During the time of the interpretation of the data, there is the possibility of the occurrence of the errors, or that the possibilities of the errors, because after the interpretation twice or thrice, maybe we are getting an adequate and the scientific research on a particular relating to the marketing segmentations or marketing research, which is relating to the tourism marketing or relating to the marketing in general. So now, dear friends, we are talking to what kind of the errors, that the possibilities of the occurrence of what kind of the errors. The first one, we may say that we are talking about what? The first one is the inadequacy of sample. Then we may talk the wrong choice of the person to contact. It may be by the mail or by the telephones. If we are not communicated to the person with the proper gesture and the posture, the persons having the knowledge, the persons having the proper communications, and the persons not having the understanding capacity. Sometimes it is happen different. That we may talk about the wrong choice of the persons to conduct. And if we are conducted the wrong choice, we are getting the wrong information. And whenever we are interpret the data, the information in wrong information, then there is the possibilities of the occurrence of the wrong interpretation of data, and the wrong interpretation of data leads to the wrong output. Then we may talk about the another occurrence difference, another problems, that is we are talking about what, the field workers not recording responses faithfully. So it is happen. Suppose as a researcher appoint some field workers. The responsibility of the field workers to collect the data from the individuals concerning to the market research. And at the meantime, the workers are not recording the responses. Suppose the people, the persons to whom they contacted, what the data they are given, what the information they provided, sometimes the field workers are not recording it. Sometimes they have left. And in this regard, sometimes they are recording in a haphazardly. So, dear friends, I'm talking about what? I'm talking about it is another, the mistakes might have been happened or the possibilities also may. And the next one, the respondent being casual. Sometimes it is happen, the persons, the field workers, they are keeping in view of certain motives, certain aims, but they are responded being casual by the common people. The common people to whom they are contacted at the field, they are not as much as not aware, as much as not ironic, as much no, I am talking about as much not active. They are being casual, they are providing the casual data. And sometimes it has happened the coding errors. the processing errors. I'm talking about the incorrect understanding of the questions when the field workers or the questionnaire is prepared by the researchers. That you must keep in mind, your friends. When it is occurred, I'm talking about the incorrect understanding I'm talking to the questions. What the questionnaire is prepared by the researcher sometimes not properly understood by the common people, and if they are not understood properly, they may not give the proper data, they may not give the proper information. So the fallacy happen, the happening occurring of the fallacy is possible, that we must keep in mind. And another one we may talk about, dear friends, that is called errors in the definitions of the questions. So, when to talk about the errors in the varieties ways, the interpretation of data that we must keep in mind, dear friends, the interpretation of data, there is the possibilities, the interpretation of data, there is the possibilities that to occur the as exactly we may to occur the errors. And in this regard, dear friends, I'm talking about errors in the definitions that we see, so that sometimes these errors are possible despite careful planning and the testing. Though there is the planning before the research, though there is the planning before the market survey, and it is the fact in the first class we have discussed. Without planning, the marketing system, marketing research, or understanding marketing structure, it's impossible, quite impossible. But keeping in view of the planning, still then there are the possibilities of the occurrence of the what I'm talking about, the errors. And dear friends, we are going to discuss in this context one thing. I must say that there are agencies and organizations in India, in case of India is concerned, who specialize in doing the market research, and they have experts in choosing samples and developing questionnaires. So they also have, that you must keep in mind, a trained interpreter, representatives we're talking about at the various places who can do the field studies and provide basic data collected as well as the tabulations. And in this regard, we may talk about not only in India, in all over the world, we are getting some agencies and some personnels who are conducting the research or the collecting the data and interpret it in a very dynamic and in a very enthused way. So now, dear friends, we are going to discuss the another aspects that is called the competitive analysis. So, dear friends, whenever we are talking about the competitive analysis, it is another aspect because our discussion is made the market analysis. And in this context, dear friends, when we are talking about the competitive analysis and the strategy, that we must keep in mind, dear friends. If both the analysis and the strategies are reciprocated, then there is the possibilities of the success of the marketing systems. It may be in the tourism marketing, dear friends. Again and again, I am repeating it. Or we may talk about in the general marketing structures. And in this context, we may highlight certain areas. And before going to highlight the areas, we must keep in mind what is that? That is understand, or we may talk about understand the meaning of the competition. Second, we may talk about the identifying the parameters, particularly the marketing as well as the competitiveness of a market that can be properly analyzed, that can be properly discussed. And the third objective we may talk about identifying the various strategic options to meet the competitive challenges. So competitive analysis required these three major objectives. And in this context, dear friends, we must focus on the intros regarding the competitive analysis. We must keep in mind what are the competitions. One thing just strike to our mind. Sometimes, or the layman can say, Competition is mainly between the two persons they participate and to achieve the goal. It may be the debate is the part of the competition, and in the market that the competition by the producers, by the product achievements, and by the nations. So competition right now is widespread. And now question comes: competition is something inherent in any market. It may be the large scale marketing, or it may talk with the small scale marketing, or it may talk with the selling situations. So there are the two, particularly we may talk about the suppliers of the product. That is called the competitions. The we as you means giving in the simple examples. One is the toothpaste. Just I'm giving the examples. Or we are talking about the clothes. And if I talk with the clothes, there are in all over the world the thousands of the companies. So that is the responsibility of the company, keeping in view of the psychology, keeping in view of the demands of the people. The companies, the producers, they are producing the clothes and they are supplying the products. And in this regard, there is the tough competitions in the market. And therefore, each and every company, each and every producing house, there is a strong competition. That's a very strong competition. And in this regard, they are applying certain strategies how to attract the more people. And what we have already discussed earlier that is the strategy of the marketing system, that more selling and the less profit. And here we may talk about it, dear friends. The competition is everywhere. It may be in the large scale market, it may be in the small scale market, it may be in the urban sectors, it may be in the rural sectors, or we may talk the tertiary sectors or the village sectors. So concept of the market or the competition of the marketing competition in the marketing system is reflected everywhere. It may be the developed nations or we may talk about the underdeveloped nations. For example, I'm giving the example in the tourist generating markets. I'm talking about your friends. There is the competition among the nations in a large scale and in a large share. For example, there is the airline competes to give the better facilities, to give the better service. Similarly, to develop the hotels, not at the peripheries. Always trying, the nations are trying to establish the hotels at the important destinations because that is the responsibility of the hoteliers or the government, or may talk about the organizers, the entrepreneurs, that to construct the hotels in such a place. As a result, the people, the tourists can reach easily. And in the same times, I'm talking about your friends. The conditions may differ from the metropolitan cities and the small destination areas. That may different. I'm talking about the conditions may different, but the major thing is to extend the service. The major thing is to extend the service and the facilities through which that you must keep in mind. Uh, the tourists may get the satisfactions. And in this regard, similarly, if you are an entrepreneur or a manager, your business from or farm, I'm talking about business from a farm may be having competitions with others. It is the fact that I'm talking about there is not only the competitions among the product, there is the competitions among the entrepreneurs. So each and every entrepreneur is trying their level best to reach maximum at the tourists by extending the best services, by extending the quality, by extending the comfortability, by extending the luxury, by extending the amenities to what exactly a tourist requires. As I am talking about in the tourist marketing system, is there? And similarly, not all the airlines, the friends, we must keep in mind the another aspects. What is that? That is regarding the in the tourism industry, whenever we are talking about the competitive analysis and the strategy is made, dear friends, we must keep in mind there is the another dimensions I told. What is? In the tourist industry, there is a different spectrums. What is that? Nations compete with nations. Here India competes with the America competes with the Ghana, or that doesn't mean we never say that. If in all over the world we're talking about the tourism industry is more active, is more profitable, that is Thailand. And for your information, dear friends, Thailand is a small country, as we know, in the world map. But Thailand earns the highest foreign earnings by the two tourism industry in Thailand. One is the sex tourism, and second one is the beach tourism, the Thai tourism. And therefore, there is a competition not only among the states, that you must keep in mind, dear friends, among the nations, competition is more precarious. And because that is the motto, in 21st century, the tourism, selling of the tourist product and earning the foreign exchange is one of the target by the nations. By that way, the money is multiplied and the cultural transmigration is being possible. So another aspect we may talk about, destinations compete with destinations. So if you may talk about in China, in Africa, in may talk about the European nations, that you may talk about, we're talking about the tour in Pisa. So here the destination compete with the destination. So here each and every destination trying to attract more tourists by as a result the destination supplies a good deal of the satisfactions, a good deal of the perfections. As a result, there is the influx of the tourists. And once the tourist is dissatisfied, it is just like a contagious one. And it hampers, it makes loss to the tourist destination. So therefore, we came to know that in all over the world, it may be the small destination, tourist destination, or maybe the large scale tourist destination. For example, better understanding, we are talking about Taj Mahal is a largest tourist destination not only in India but also in the world. But in the same time, whenever I'm taking into the account of the Chaushadi Yogini of Odisha, is not having that much of the what to say attract to the tourists. But here Chaushadi Yogini also competes with the Taj Mahal because the destination compete with the destination. It is in form of the monuments, it is in form of the ecotourism, it is in form of the beaches, it is in form of the Chaitij Viharas, or we may talk about the church, we may talk the mosques, or we may talk about the place of the holiness. Now I'm talking about the another aspects, dear friends. What is that? That is the tourism service providers compete with each other. And it is a fact when to talk about the tourism service providers in the field of the tourism, starting from the tour operator to the marketing agents, as well as we may talk about the artisans of a particular region that we must keep in mind, dear friends. So here each and every when we're talking about the competitive analysis and strategy is one of the important segments that we must keep in mind, dear friends, of the marketing analysis. And it is the fact when to talk about the competitive analysis. Yes, we must keep in mind, dear friend, the competitive analysis can be conducted under the direct versus indirect competition, monopolistic or the oligopolistic competition. Second one, the third one is the quantitative and the qualitative analysis. So in this regard, dear friends, when we're talking about the competitive analysis is concerned, yes, we must keep in mind that the competitive analysis is quite important and it must be taken into the account in a very judicious manner because it is a stepping stone to multiply the tourism industry as one of the earning source of a nation. So, dear friends, today we have covered a lot regarding the market analysis, and in context to the market analysis, we reach what is the market research in details. Then we are talking about the competitive analysis as well as the strategies. And with this, today we are going to sum up our discussion regarding the market analysis. Thank you.